Hi, lovely and darling viewers. It's Jen here at Check Her Joy, and this time I'm reviewing Flight by Sherman Alexie. Honestly, I wasn't intending to read another one of Sherman Alexie's books that quickly. I just finished reading The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. Honestly, out of the two books, I like True Diary better, but Flight is still highly entertaining. Um, this book focuses on Zits, who's our main character, and he's half Native American, half white. And when he's 6, his mom dies, and his dad has been out of the picture since he was born. So Zit spends his life in foster care, and it's not a typically it's not an easy life at all. Zitz has had a lot of really rotten luck with the people he's been placed with. Um, he's half Indian from his father, but because his father never claimed him, he doesn't get any of the advantages that claiming to be an Indian, like the protections that would offer him. And he just is this strange mix of being like a cynical character and moody, angsty teenager, but the situations he's in, it doesn't feel contrived at all either. Like, I get it. Like, he is taken in by families that only want him for the money that comes with hosting foster care children. A lot of families that just um, don't really care that much, and he makes it blatantly obvious. He hasn't had anything new ever most of his life. Like, he can remember the time he had a new pair of shoes, or that one time he got this really cool airplane. Um, but then his foster father crashed it just out of spite. So just he's had like 20 different foster families when we first meet him when he's 15. And some of these parents have been just downright abusive towards him. Physically, pretty much it's alluded to that they've been sexually abusive to him also. Um, and all of this should make this book really depressing and really dark, but because of like the sarcasm in this book and Zit's narrations, it's actually really funny and entertaining. It deals with a lot of dark issues too. So Zitz finds himself in a situation where he's on the brink of committing this really horrible mass murder situation where he's got this gun in a bank and he's just going to shoot it up. And he does it. And then when he thinks he's dead, like he gets shot in the brain, and then when he wakes up, he's in somebody else's body, like he's just jumped into their lives, into this first jump I think he makes is into like an FBI officer in the 70s who's about to go on this Indian reservation and like attack, like they're fighting with the Indians. And he just makes these series of jumps, these time like leaps into these different bodies and different perspectives, and he just starts to see other ways of life and hatred like on both sides. Really, it's really about racism and hatred and violence and why we do these things and how sometimes they aren't necessarily like he looks at the Native American and the white perspectives, and sometimes the hatred is for the same reasons, like because of what's happened in the past. Like, once you start revenge, when do you stop? Um, it's like a very dark version of Quantum Leap with him jumping into these lives and trying to figure out who he is and why he's there. Um, it's an interesting storytelling perspective. Sometimes he has more control over the bodies than others. Sometimes he's just along for the ride. Sometimes he's actively making decisions and control what's happening. Um, I don't really want to spoil where he jumps and like why and what he learns, but the ending is actually pretty hopeful and pretty happy ending for all the dark things that happen in this book, which I am like really grateful for because otherwise this book would have been massively depressing. Um, and Zitz does actively like try to learn lessons every time and like rationalizes the situation and tries to see it from multiple angles. Like, this is a kid with a lot of empathy, which also keeps this book from being incredibly depressing, which it could have been. Instead, it's actually hopeful and funny and humorous. It doesn't really skirt over, like, this is a relatively short book. I think it's only like 200 pages or something. It went really quickly. Um, it doesn't take long to read. So there isn't a lot of in depth exploration of these characters. We're kind of just jumping from one to the other. Um, so it does, I mean, it tackles a lot of the hard stuff, but it doesn't necessarily get really too in depth with any of the stuff. And it is like a good look at like American history and like this whole how we got to where we are now with Native Americans also, like different things about like the treaties being broken and different situations, different massacres that happened. Um, One point he jumps into the Battle of Little Bighorn, like the last Indian uprising, like the last stand of the Indians where they were really strong in force against the whites. Custer's last stand. Um, so yeah, this is a book with a lot of humanity. A lot of stuff gets covered in here very quickly. But on whole, it's just like it's. I wouldn't say it's fun. Like oh my gosh, it's so enjoyable, but it kind of is too. The narration is done wonderfully, and Zitz is a really amusing character and likable. So I actually really did enjoy Flight, even if it's not my favorite book out of the two of these. So I gave it like it's in between a 3 and 4 stars. I think I officially gave it 4 stars in Goodreads. It's kind of in between, maybe a 3.75. But yeah, totally. It's not without its problems, like the fact that we have this hormonal 15-year old who just sees every girl. It's just like I'm so attracted to her, and gosh, I'm so horny. Like every time he meets a girl. Part of that's the 15-year old. Part of it's still kind of problematic though. Um, he also explains that like he also explains about how all these Native Americans, the ones who aren't on reservations, are just a lot of drunks. Um, so it's not entirely a perfect book, but it's also very short, so I can kind of overlook some of these faults also. But if this book seems way too depressing, then absolutely a True Diary of Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie is amazing and definitely my favorite out of the two of these. Um, totally check that one out. I'll post my link to review. I'll post the link to my review for this book down below also. Um, but this was a good second novel for me reading these. Not his second novel he wrote. This is definitely more an adult novel. Like it's a 15-year-old character, but the life he has to like lead and stuff is definitely darker and more in depth. It's more mature teen to an adult book. Yeah. Basically, anything else I have to say on this book? I think that's it. So yeah, peace out. I love you guys and keep reading. Bye.